Hello, my name is Dr. Bethany King, and I'm talking to you today about my theory behind weight loss. The reason why is because I am now running the weight loss program here at Kansas Surgical Arts, a program that has been established for weight loss for the last 7 years. Kansas Surgical Arts, with the guidance of Dr. Oberhelman, started a medical weight loss program a number of years ago to help her vein patients who have venous insufficiency and need treatment for varicose veins and leg pain and poor circulation. And many times those patients need help with weight loss to help their leg symptoms improve. And for that reason, she needed a system in place where patients could be medically guided. And so that weight loss program was established here a number of years ago for that reason, but I have recently taken it over. And my approach is a little bit different than maybe many, but it does yield good results with happy patients. My personal approach to weight loss is based upon the fact that I've battled weight gain my entire life. I've been overweight my entire life. I was overweight at the age of 6, at the age of 10, at the age of 15, all through college, through medical school, through residency, constantly gaining. I have been on every diet that has ever existed. I have been on every weight loss medicine. Through my own efforts, I have lost more than 300 pounds in my life through repeated dieting. When I was in medical school and residency, I did not understand what was happening to my body in terms of its chemistry. They did not teach this in medical school. I had no concept of this, even though I already had a college degree. I was well trained in biology and chemistry and physiology. I was already in medical school and finally already a doctor and still did not understand these concepts. Due to heavy stress, very high stress during medical school and a surgical residency, my cortisol levels were high. Because my cortisol levels were high, I packed on 100 pounds in 8 years' time. I ultimately had gastric bypass surgery in 2006. I had what is called a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery, which is where not only the stomach is made surgically to be smaller, but your intestines are also rerouted so that you absorb things differently than you used to. It was a life-changing experience for me. I absolutely recommend it with no reservation for the right person. It changed my life. I rapidly lost 130 pounds in a year's time. And that put me at being a little bit too thin. I had to gain weight so that I could get pregnant. And of course, I gained the obligatory 40 to 50 pounds while pregnant. And since my daughter was born 10 years ago, because I finally learned what I'm about to share with you, I have finally been able to at least manage my weight. Before I learned these concepts that I'm about to share with you, I couldn't manage my weight. I was always gaining, and then I would diet, I would crash down, and then I would spring back up and then exceed what I had weighed before every single time. Even before my weight loss surgery, I had intentionally lost, I can't remember, 125 pounds, 150 pounds through repeated efforts. So what I'm trying to teach the people who come to our weight loss program is how the food that you eat imparts a certain chemical reaction in your body. That chemical reaction either sets you up to pack on fat because you're in storage mode, or burn fat because you're no longer in storage mode. To accomplish that change in body chemistry, you have to monitor the food that passes your lips. Medicine will not fix it. Crash diets will not fix it. Those things will enable you to temporarily lose weight, but for the average person who is and was like me, you'll spring right back up. So if you are one of those people who has battled your weight your whole life, like me, this is a talk which will matter to you, and you need to absorb this. And if you are going to be entering my weight loss program, you have to accept and internalize these concepts, because my goal for people who enter this weight loss program is for me to teach you so well that you don't need medicine anymore, to teach you so well that you don't need me anymore, to teach you so well that 5 years from now, when your weight starts to creep back up, you can remember what I taught you, pull the books down off the shelf that I told you to read, and go, oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, that's what's wrong. And then you can take the bull by the horns and take care of your own body chemistry and your own weight loss. That is the proper way to do this. So it's all about glucose and insulin. When you eat a banana, the banana is broken down to its most basic particles, which are sugars. The sugars get absorbed from your intestine into your bloodstream. When the sugar is in the bloodstream, it then needs to get to the tissues of your body so that your tissues will have an energy source. To get from the blood to the tissues, insulin is required. So when your body detects that there's blood sugar in the blood, it will secrete insulin, and the insulin will then allow the blood to leave the bloodstream and enter the tissues. So when you are chronically bombarded with carbohydrates, when carbohydrates are constantly being inserted into your stomach, which therefore make your blood sugar level go high, your body is chronically having to use insulin to get the blood sugar to leave the bloodstream and go to the tissues. Over years of this chronic bombardment of insulin, eventually your body starts to ignore the insulin. When it ignores the insulin, you are therefore insulin resistant. Some people have not heard of this concept, but it's important that you understand the concepts between being insulin resistant and insulin sensitive. If you are insulin resistant, your body ignores the normal amounts of insulin and has to dump more insulin into the bloodstream just to lower the blood sugar. The reason why your body will take the extra time to dump more insulin into the bloodstream is because not only are you supposed to get the glucose into your body so that you have an energy source, but high levels of glucose hanging out in the bloodstream for too long will poison the blood vessels and make the blood vessels not work well. If you have somebody who is diabetic, their blood sugar levels have typically been high for years with no symptoms, but that high amount of blood sugar is poisoning the blood vessels, making them not work right, which is why diabetic people don't heal well when they're cut, why they don't heal well when there's an infection, why diabetic people have diseased kidneys and hearts. It's all because of the blood vessels poisoned by sugar. So when your body realizes that you have excessive amounts of sugar in your bloodstream because it's not going down like it's supposed to, because now your body's no longer listening to insulin, your body will dump extra insulin into the blood vessel just to get the basic job done. Fine, so it's doing what it has to do. However, there is an unfortunate side effect of insulin. Insulin makes you fat. If you have an insulin-dependent diabetic, somebody who has to have insulin shots to get the job done, to get their body to move the blood sugar from the blood to the tissues, that person will be told to inject their insulin into a different spot each time. If they inject it into the same exact spot again and again and again, it will grow an unsightly mound of fat. The reason why is because insulin grows fat. Don't forget that concept. Insulin grows fat. Insulin tells the tissues that it encounters to be in storage mode. Storage mode means packing on fat, storing it for a rainy day. Humans are designed to have fat for that purpose, for a rainy day. And by for a rainy day, what I mean is back in the day before we had civilization, when people lived out in the woods and didn't have stores and agriculture, they ate what they could get their hands on. They ate fruit and vegetables and nuts. And that's what the gathering part of hunter-gatherer was. They gathered what they could. And the hunter part meant killing animals, and they killed animals when they could. Well, back then, I promise you there would be plenty of times where there simply was no food to gather. And if they couldn't get a hold of an animal, they went days and days and days and days and days without eating. Our bodies are designed for that moment. You are designed to go through periods of starvation. And because the body is prepared for that, it will pack on food for a rainy day, which is your fat. But these days, we're in a constantly fed state. We're told to eat 3 square meals a day, or at least 2 square meals a day. We're told that if you skip meals, you'll be unhealthy. That's one part of the problem. We're in a constantly fed state, when it's actually natural to have periods of periodic starvation. The other problem is that our cultures have been so bombarded with carbohydrates for so long because in the late 70s they decided that the way to be thin is taking in fewer calories and exercising more. If you simply take in fewer calories and exercise more, you will be thin. And if you're not thin, it's because you're not exercising enough and you're taking in too many calories, which means that you are lazy and gluttonous. That's what that means. They were wrong. And one of these days, it will become common knowledge in the medical world that that concept is not universally appropriate. Because when that concept became common, when it pervaded our culture, that is when the obesity epidemic began. We're talking in the 80s. That is when the diabetic epidemic began in the 80s. So some of you may recall that in the 1980s, everything was fat-free. Well, the reason why everything became fat-free was because we were told we needed to restrict calories. If you have fewer calories and you exercise more, you'll be thin and healthy. So if you think of there are three types of foods that we take into our body. You take in carbohydrates or proteins or fats. Those are the three macromolecules, which means big molecules. Those molecules are our primary energy source in our food. If you have this much carbohydrate, it will produce this much energy. And the unit that describes how much energy you can get from food is called a calorie. So this much energy equals this much calories. Protein gives approximately the same amount of energy per unit, similar to carbohydrates. Therefore, it has approximately the same calories. But fat produces a lot more energy per unit. So this same type of unit will give you 3 times as much energy as it does if you took the same unit, meaning like a teaspoon or half a cup from protein. So half a cup of protein versus half a cup of fat, the fat will give a lot more energy. The unit that describes energy is calories. So fat gives a lot more calories. So if you are following a calorie restricted diet, you will say no to all fat because you'll just waste all your calories that way. And you're trying to limit your calories. So low fat became the cool thing to do in the 80s and 90s. Everything was low fat. When you make something fat free, it doesn't taste good. So they replaced the fat with sugar. The most common cheap type of sugar was high fructose corn syrup. We've all heard about the dangers of all that. Well, that's kind of when that became the cool thing to do. So that and the fast food phenomenon explosion across the world and all of the processed foods that are on the shelf in the grocery store all together combined to make us ultimately insulin resistant. Insulin resistance over time makes your body just not listen to the insulin anymore. It's like a 4-year-old going, mommy, 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 and the mom just doesn't hear them anymore. Same thing. Your body goes deaf to insulin. So not everybody who is insulin resistant becomes diabetic, but insulin resistance is the step before diabetes. Diabetes is when your blood sugar levels have been so high for so long that you're now being diseased by it. That's diabetes. Not everybody gets to the point where they're actually diabetic. I am very fortunate in that my family, even though obesity runs in my family, diabetes does not. I'm so grateful for that. But that's just a genetic fluke. That's not any magic or effort on my part. In my family, I have 3 older sisters, and they are 8 to 11 years older than I am. So I've gotten to watch my sisters a decade older than me all of my life. Of my 3 sisters, 2 are overweight with the same tendencies as I have. One of them is skinny as a rail and has been all of her life. And the skinny one is the one in between the ones that are overweight. This is the skinny one. This is the first one. This is the third one. They were raised, they're all 18 months apart. They were all raised the same. And then I came along a decade later, raised in the same household. We were all raised the same. Why is the skinny one skinnier? She's genetically different. Her body chemistry is different than mine and my other 2 sisters. I've seen proof of that all of my life. That means that we cannot help it. I can't help it. My other 2 sisters can't help it. That's how we're made. And our type of people that add on weight easily and battle our weight all our lives, We are the type of people who are sensitive to carbohydrates. And I know that for certain. So this concept of just eat less and exercise more is hogwash for people like us. And actually, we represent an enormous part of the population of the world. We are battling the same thing that everybody else is. So when I was out of residency, I was in fellowship, my mother gave me a book called Why We Get Fat and What You Can Do About It. I read that book and it blew my mind. It opened my eyes. It made me realize that, oh my God, the problem is sugar and insulin. Insulin's making me fat, and I had no idea. And I had been a doctor by that point for 8 years. So if doctors don't understand this, why on earth should the average person living on this earth understand this, right? So I went on my first low carb diet, and I followed the directions in the book, no more than 20 grams of carbohydrates per day, and I lost 30 pounds in 2 months eating pork rinds. So I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can melt like a stick of butter in the sun if you follow what I'm going to tell you to do. The goal is I want to make you insulin sensitive again. To make you insulin sensitive again, we have to take the insulin out of your bloodstream as much as possible so that your body develops the ability to not mind it anymore, so that your body develops the ability to hear it again, to respond to it again. If you get to the point where you can respond to it again, you can live a more normal dietary life. To get to the point where you're insulin sensitive, you have to be strict with low carbs for a number of months. And then your body will reset to normal. But because of your genetic predisposition to being this way, if you go back to eating high carbs after a period of time, all of a sudden your chemistry will switch again and you'll find yourself packing on fat fast. I know this because I've done it 100 times. Even after I understood and learned low carbohydrate living, I still fall off the wagon all the time. But at least now I know what to do about it. And when I realized that me falling off the wagon, which means eating cereal again or eating pizza again, so on and so forth, when that happens, I'll be okay for a while and all of a sudden I start packing on fat fast. And I'm like, oh Lord, I've done it again. We're back to being insulin resistant. And I have to pull up my bootstraps, get back on the wagon, do it again. And every single time I'm able to lose it back down. I'm 47 years old and I'm still able to get myself to lose weight this way. So I teach people how to affect their body chemistry by lowering their insulin levels. The way you lower your insulin levels is strict low carb dieting for a while, meaning a few months. And then I let people start adding back more variety to their diet and let them figure out what works for them. We're all different. Not one person is the same. And that's normal. That's how we're made. We're supposed to be unique, right? And I will say that I've recently developed understanding of the concept of intermittent fasting. I never understood it before. I managed my own weight with just low carb dieting, but now that I've taken this over and have expanded my research and refreshed my understanding of the science behind this, I'm now aware of intermittent fasting, and I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, intermittent fasting will speed along your weight loss even more. And the most remarkable thing about intermittent fasting is, number one, insulin levels go way down and stay down because you're not giving your body anything to work with. If your insulin levels go down, you'll achieve insulin sensitivity faster. Number two, if you go a certain amount of time during intermittent fasting, your adrenaline levels begin to go up, so your energy goes up, and your growth hormone levels start to rapidly increase, which means that you will burn even more fat. I've seen remarkable weight loss doing this in myself and in my patients. So I like to combine those two things. I like to recommend certain supplements that will help support immune system and nervous function, meaning function of brains and nerves. I don't like people to be on medicine. Why on earth would you put extra chemicals into your body that you know good and well are not going to fix the problem? They will make you feel happy and pleased with yourself short term. And when you take the medicines away, your weight is going to come back probably 90% of the time. Every now and then there's that uncommon person who has lived mostly a life of being thin, and after menopause their weight starts to pack on a little bit, and now they're unhappy and they need a little help getting down. That person is different. That person may be able to maintain their weight much more easily after they come off the medicine. But I can tell you from personal experience, I've taken every weight loss medicine under the sun, and it just so happens that I cannot take them anymore because they cause weird side effects in me that other people don't get. And so I have finally, at the age of 47, come to peaceful terms with the fact that diets aren't going to fix me, and medicine is not going to fix me. I even had gastric bypass surgery, and it did not fix me. It restricted how much I can eat at a time, which was helpful, and it changed my life, but it did not change my underlying body chemistry, the body chemistry that happens as a result of my genes, my DNA. There's nothing that's going to change that. It's going to be with me until the day that I die. And for most of you, it's going to be with you till the day that you die. And so if you would like to take the bull by its horns and take control of your life and take control of your health and be able to maintain your own weight and feel wonderful without my help and without the help of medicine, then let me teach you. Come see me and I'll teach you my ways, and in all likelihood, you'll be able to achieve really good improvement and health, and you'll be armed with knowledge that you can carry with you for the rest of your life. Stay safe, stay healthy out there.